It's the Abba Podcast. Let's go.
And the next guest on the podcast, the Abba Podcast, brings you Between the Line podcast. Boys, how are we going?
Good. What's happening, man?
Right, enough of butts. We've got Pedj Bojic, we've got Jamie. Boys, you just finished a couple of sessions. Who's been working harder today?
I don't know. I think I have,
Oh, Jamie reckons he's the hardest worker, so Jamie can take it.
He reckons it's me since 8 o'clock in the morning, bro. So I don't know. I don't even believe it.
No, boys, man. We're always working hard. The world of football and training. Talk to us, boys. How's this dynamic working, the podcasting, being there since 8 a.m. together?
Well, there is no dynamic, actually. It's annoying. It doesn't work. No, it's good. Look, I mean, we're two different variations. Look, I'm 38. Jamie is 21. So it's almost like that. We've created a big brother, little brother bond where it's a bit unconditional and there's no egos, and we seem to just have a bond from when we first met. And here we are now doing podcasts, and Jamie's come under the wing working in the business as well. So it's good.
Mate, that's good, mate. Jamie, talk to us about Pedj, mate. How's he? Is he all good?
I don't know, bro. I met him through Instagram. So I reached out to him while I was overseas to start training, and then started training together. And next thing you know, we're best mates. I don't know, best mates.
Say
we're good mates, bro. But he doesn't call me out for dinners, doesn't take me out.
He's got a terrible dress sense. You can't dance.
Nah, wait, that's a lie, bro. This guy can't dance. I said
the guy on
no,
camera.
you. I said it before. I said it to you before. I said, you've been taking me out, I haven't seen my dance move. So, no, he's a good bloke, man. So he obviously played at a high level. I play soccer myself, and he's someone that I look up to and I learn off.
Yeah, look, 100%. My interaction with Pedj, the guy's an absolute legend. And the banter and the dynamic seems like it's working well, boys, you know? It seems like it's seasoned vets.
No, it's good. No, look, it is. It's unconditional. That's the main part. It's not forced, it's not fake. So it's whatever is there, it's real, it's not rehearsed. So and you know yourself, when you're dealing with people like that, when it's just real and natural, you can just flow.
Yeah.
100%. Boys, talk to us about the world of football. Pedj, you've played at the highest of levels. You've been there, done that. You continue with academies and nurturing the future generations. Where does Jamie lie in the footballing world, and has he gone so far under the wing of Between the Lines and the gyms?
Yeah, look, Jamie's got a young story at the moment. He's had his little up and down in Germany where he played. He's had his version of a setback, had a career-threatening injury. He got hit by a car in Germany.
Yeah.
So, and Jamie will get into that story in a second. And so he's come back trying to resurrect his career. He's playing NPL in first grade. He's here through with me play Centrals and do the podcast. So he's in a transition period where now he's 21. He's still very young to step into that pro life, and now is making decisions how to navigate that way. So everyone has a story in a unique way, and for him, he's at the start of his journey, really. And I mean, you can explain what happened in Germany, and do tell, because you'd say it better than I do because you were there, not me.
No, yeah, it's touched base about it. He said, had that career-threatening injury. It wasn't career, more life-threatening. Could have, who knows?
Yeah, we'll explain.
Yeah, so I actually signed for a big club in Germany, for Fortuna Düsseldorf at the time. It was done in 19th Bundesliga. And for me, being an Aussie guy over there, I thought, man, look, wow, like my career's kicking off. All this hard work's paid off, and I'm finally up in the big teams. And then I remember a week out before the season, I'm riding my bike to the train station. I lived about an hour away from the training facilities. So I'm riding my bike to the train station. Next thing I crossed the road, I looked to my right. I still remember this. I looked to his right, I see the car coming, smack, hit me at 50 kilometers. Yeah, bro. I remember waking up on the top of the roof and then just sliding down and then laying on the ground and looking up, and everyone's coming around. And I thought, man, fuck, my career's done. Like, woman goes to me, oh, you got a cut on your head. You're cut everywhere. I thought, like, what's going to happen? I lived there for host family. I lived there for host family. My family was back in Australia. And then I ended up going to hospital, and then my parents in Australia got a phone call about 4 a.m. in the morning saying your son's in hospital. And I still remember my mum calling me saying, look, I want to come and visit you. But at that time, I didn't want anyone to visit, because I felt like if they came, I would have been too comfortable. So I wanted to fight that battle on my own. And yeah, I was injured for about 6-7 months, bro. It was a long time. And being a foreigner, you have to be, you got big shoes to fill. You're pushed to the side, and then I didn't get to play as much as I wanted to. And then obviously it was hard, mentally hard. I went to school there. I went to international school, and at that point I was missing school a lot because my mindset was just, I'm just there for football. Why should I go to school? And then I became a bit, depressed, which I didn't know at the time I was. But now I look back and said, yeah, man, I was actually, going for a dark time and tough time where I was depressed. I didn't go to school. So then I decided to come back to Australia. I was back with my family, and then I decided to go back to the Western Sydney Wanderers, and I played a season there. And then I moved to Melbourne for, how long was it? 6-7 months? Yeah, something like that. Through COVID. Then I came back, I'm playing at Rockdale and working back at Player Centrals and doing this with Pedj.
I know, legend. Look, a perspective for the boys, because a lot of people haven't tested the waters overseas, and the people that have understand the struggles, the tribulations that happen, and it's a different beast. And both you boys have played overseas, and for many seasons, Ped's done it as well, with the pressures of promotions, yourself with the pressure of playing for a contract. At that moment, through those ups and downs, what kept you guys going? Because it's easier said than done, especially with a lot of people who haven't done it.
Yeah, what keeps you going is, look, there's variations of ways. If I look at what kept me going at 15, 17, 23, 28, they've all been slightly different, but there's always been one purpose of self-belief and knowing this is what I wanted to do, and knowing that dedication, sacrifice, hard work that you put in daily to achieve these goals, because you're at a heightened risk of dealing with setbacks, depressions, anxieties, being dropped from the team, crowds booing you. It's you're in the public eye, and that's nerve-wracking in itself. So if you don't have resilience to understand how to keep pushing and pushing and pushing, you're going to fail. And I've said this many times, there's so many talented players that I've seen now in NPL 1 to NPL 4 that are probably better than me technically on the football field, but yet haven't made pro because they don't know how, they're not educated how to play the game, and their mindset is lacking with that true grit clarity of what they need to become a successful athlete.
Hey, most definitely. Boys, I've got a question. I've come across a couple of players technically really sound above board, but they struggle with fitness. Now, how much of it is discipline and getting in the grind day in, day out? Like, where's the struggle there? Because a lot of people technically might have it, fitness-wise don't, and then vice versa.
Well, I mean, look, fitness is my strength, I guess. That's what made me my career. That's what made me stand out in the A-League. Look, the fitter you are, the more confidence you have, the less mistakes you make, the less negativity creeps into your mind. So I always had this thing is, if I can outwork my opponent, I'm going to win the battle. And by doing so, in an A-League environment, you train full-time, 6 days a week, once a day, maybe twice. I train 3 times a day, every day, besides game day. So I was doing almost 15 sessions a week to trump what people are doing on the average norm in the A-League. So therefore, the fitter I was, the higher I can sustain what I did in the first minute to the 90th minute. And fitness is key in all walks of life. Even you now behind the podcast now, you've got to have a mentality of fitness to sustain your tone and voice. What you have to ask, you have to be sharp on your toes. So it's in all industries, not just on the football field.
Yeah, most definitely. And a lot of discipline comes into it because it's a grind that doesn't come overnight, and it's something you work on. And once you get to a level, you got to elevate and you got to keep progressing. You don't want to ever stagnate. And I remember growing up watching yourself, you were up and down, and no matter what or how tough the circumstance was, you were tracking back and putting in those efforts that most people weren't or couldn't at that time of the game. Talk to us about Australian football now. We're in an interesting stage now where a lot of these academies are now trying to overtake and trump the NPL system. I know a lot of players that are now putting faith into that. Jamie's gone overseas. Pedj, you've gone overseas yourself. Is this the route? Is it sit with academies, play academy football, and hope that this guy takes me overseas and not playing NPL against the best of your age? Because we're seeing a phenomenon now where these academies are now shifting with a couple of success stories, and they're now trying to overtake these talents and say, come this way, train with us 5 days a week. We'll give you a full-time training and put all your faith in me.
You go first, Jamie. I have my view as well.
Look, there's obviously good people. There's obviously good people in football and bad people in football. Obviously, when it comes to money, I disagree. When people start asking for money, saying, look, I'll give you a trial overseas, I'll give you a club, and then money gets involved, it's a no-go for me. I've been there. I never paid money. I never paid to trial for a club. I never paid, to play for a club. The only thing I had to pay for was literally my flight to go there. So, look, obviously people can help you. Academies can help you if they're there for the right thing. If they're not there for money to say, hey, pay me, I could be overseas, then okay. But I do agree you need to go overseas young. And I went overseas when I was 15, 16, but it's just going with the right people and not being stuck with people that, say the sharks in the game when money gets involved. That's what I think shouldn't be there. Yeah. What about you, Pedj?
Yeah, I mean, yes, look, if you have a child and someone tells your child you're going to be the best player if you stay with me, they're going to naturally, emotionally be attached to you. So if you, all NPL clubs and all academies, there's going to be some bad clubs, some bad academies, some good clubs, some good academies. Everyone has a different experience. Now, what's the right path? There is no right path, but if you go off our last 10, 15 years of development, what have you really, truly developed? That's the scary part. So you can easily manipulate a child and saying, you come with me, you're going to become the best. That's at NPL level, SAP level, academy level. And there are some full-time programs doing well, but then some of those players in those full-time program in 3 years, some have quit football. So it doesn't mean it's going to work. You just have to know what you're truly good at. And you got to, success stories can be manipulated as well. And I'm not trying to sound negative. I can easily create a success story that's not real and fabricate. But there are some true, genuine ones, don't get me wrong, clearly. So what should you do as a youngster? I do believe you should be playing above your age, because I remember you saying playing your own age against the best. I think a talented player should be up in age, because overseas, they're going to look at players and question where you're at. Are you playing up in age? Are you too good for your age? Because you're going to take someone's spot. And also, you got to remember too, some people will say, we'll take you overseas. And you might be going overseas to a club that has no idea that you're coming. They've just spoken to someone at the club that they know, and you've put on a training shirt and you think you're part of a trial when really you're not.
Happens so many times. You hear so many stories about that.
Yeah, so without sounding negative, there obviously are paths, but the windows are small. So should you go overseas young? Maybe. Or do you get your first grade craft here and then go? Harry Kewell's done it at a young age. Great. Brett Emerson did it at an older age by proving himself in old NSL. So there's no one way. It's like if I had a child and he was talented at 13, 14 and he was superior above the rest, I'll send him. If I think he's talented amongst the rest and I think he's got 3-4 years development, I might keep him.
Yeah, but what about, I agree, but so much opportunity overseas.
But
we only have one league here.
Yeah, but there's a lot of, you can get lost over there too.
Yeah, true. You can get lost, but then it's.
I've heard so many stories where kids and people couldn't wait out for the transfer window to get sold because they're such homesick, and they come back, they're not talking to family members and people that have sacrificed all their livelihood to get them over there. It divides families, man. It's more to it because you prepare the kid, 16, 17, you're going overseas, you send him to a country that's probably not well known, your contacts are there, you're going to sell him to PSV, you're going to sell him to in the transfer window. They don't make the transfer window because they go out there, they're tired, it's tough. Everyone believes it's a fairy tale lifestyle. You're on the grind 24/7. Then the partying comes up, the women, the alcohol, and so on and so forth. And you lose yourself, man. And so many stories they come back within the year, man. And it's sad because unfortunately, the academy type system and these people that give these false promises, they tell them, football, you've got what it takes, yada, yada, yada. They give up on school, they give up on trades, they come back 20, 23, 24, behind on everything in life, and they fall further into the traps of society and life and the struggles that we all entail.
100%. And that's a big ego damaging moment for them where they're like, wow, I was meant to be this person. Now I'm not. Now a shock is here. And that's the reality. And football's a very small journey. It's a very small window of success, but it is there to be walked through. But it's just dangerous because you see the famous people on TV, you see the social media pages, and it is a fairy tale success, but it's not guaranteed at all. There's a lot of hardship, there's a lot of downtimes, there's a lot of rejections on benches, there's a lot of politics involved. But if you know how to rise above it and you know what to do as an athlete, you have the foundations of becoming successful. And again, if it's not for you, it's okay. You don't have to be a successful athlete. You can be a semi-pro and have a great business career or whatever it may be. Don't just chase something that you think you have to.
100%. And that's where passion comes into it. Because if you're sincere and you really enjoy what you're doing, success follows. And you just got to be doing the ABCs. I never forget, I've said this when I had Shane Flanagan on the podcast. I'm like, Floyd Mayweather said, give me 1 minute, I'll tell you if someone becomes a Floyd Mayweather. Now, I never really understood the context, and I kept watching further interviews to see What did he mean by that? And he explains it in another interview, saying he looks to see a boxer for them to be of the caliber of Floyd. He sees if they're doing the ABCs, the fundamentals, what they were taught on day one of boxing. If they're abandoning that, he can't be a Floyd Mayweather. That's what he meant. The wisdom behind that is phenomenal, because perfecting that is near impossible.
100%. And because you're more in the boxing game as well yourself.
Yeah.
Now, have you seen on the reps of people talking, is there a difference in the last 5-10 years of boxing, or are we producing look at Zeus coming through now, man. Yeah.
Yeah, we're in the golden era. Golden era of boxing, man. Boxing in this country is in the best place it's ever been, because we're having about 4, 5, 6 shows a year, and then we've got smaller shows. The amount of shows television isn't keeping up with. Where back in yesteryear, you had to wait for a Mundine or a green card, and you're lucky if that was televised. It's because of the foundations, the grassroots doing really well. The amateur scene is actually the best it's ever been in the country. So, and you got to remember, we're in the entertainment era. So people that have a social media following are also positively influencing boxing, because the fundamentals of boxing really takes about a year or two. And then it's all about timing and repetition and your body of work in the ring to get better. So an exceptional athlete, like, for example, an Anthony Joshua, he starts boxing at 19, he goes, wins Olympic gold, is a specimen of an athlete, though. So he can pick that up. In football, it's different. If you miss the boat, you've missed the boat. And no matter what you do, you can't catch that. But something that I've learned, boys, and I think this is important, you can help the audience understand. I've been in world championship dressing rooms. I've been covering a lot of fights on the ground, and I've seen people before they go out and perform. Now, I've got a Football New South Wales media pass. I covered a couple of Australia Cup games. I feel certain players and teams in football in this country are beat before they even enter the pitch, because they've expended so much energy into the worries and the gameplay, and they don't play what's in front of them. Talk to us about that, because, man, a lot of tense, man. I felt that it was a siege mentality, or something that didn't seem like it was a football game, because I've seen fighters. Now, I'm talking Rob Whittaker, I'm talking Mick Sarafa, number 2 in the world championship, that don't conduct themselves like these boys, these coaching staff coach the boys.
You go. You want me to go?
Yeah, I think this is your part.
This is my part. Well, look, there's one thing that I learned many years ago. We're going to find out if we go back into boxing. Is one thing I learned of Mike Tyson. He learned to win his fight before it even started, which I'm sure you're familiar with. And that term is called the art of skullduggery. Now, what that means is it's a theme from the pirate theme of being conniving and shifty, right? But the way it's used in sport, Mike Tyson would look at his opponent and wait for that moment to know he's got him before the fight's begun. And I've kind of looked at the same way when I played a game, is I always look at my opponent. I'm showing no weaknesses, no nothing. I don't care who it is, but trying to trump them and get in their head as quick as I can. And I have been in change rooms where, like 2013 grand final, when we beat the Wanderers, Central Coast Mariners, on grand final day, there was this interesting silence but confidence that it seemed like the whole team knew we were going to win. I couldn't explain it. There's just something about this quite humble confidence, we're going to win. And, we did. It was almost like, this is our time. And I've been times where I've seen the coach make so much fear into the team, and they've gone out like weak soldiers and performed badly. It's almost like, when you watch that traditional American teen movie where you got the geeks against the real bullies, and the bullies got stuff coming out of their mouth. I've seen that happen on the field in an A-League where coach was scared of the other coach and put so much fear into the team. The team buckled and panicked and had to play football again, all because of one person.
I feel like, when you're in a strange and you're going to win today, you're going to lose today. You get that feeling, bro. Are we going to be flat today, or are we going to win today? Like, you just have that feeling.
You do. But then also, you don't have control of flow. Now, again, you can look at inboxing as well. You can win one round, the next round, the guy comes and trumps you. Same as in football. You can be winning one. Look at Man City.
Yeah.
2-0 down with space of 5 minutes. They scored 3 goals.
70th minute, 2-0 down. And if they lost, that's it.
Yeah. So no one has the control of flow. But all it takes is one jink in the chain for everything to flip around. But the more successful ones have more of a togetherness. And a good saying goes, if you have 8 out of your 11 starting players doing their job, you win the game.
Yeah.
So it's about knowing your structure, knowing your results. There's times where I've prepared so well for a game and played shit, and vice versa. I've had a flat thing, but I've turned out and played well.
I've had it so many times, and I'm bad at that. Like, I'm the guy superstitious. I'm like, I need this, I need that. And I had 1 week where, bro, I didn't sleep good, this and that. In my head, I'm like, man, I'm going to play bad today. I'm going to play bad. I end up going to the game, I played amazing. And then in my head, I'm like, bro, I don't need superstitions anymore. So it just plays in your head, I guess.
Yeah, well, that's right.
100%. I feel the power of belief goes a long way, man. And imagining or foreseeing something. I don't forget when I first started the podcast, I was speaking with a sponsor. And this guy's cashed up. So I'm like, so what gigs you got coming up? I'm like, I'm covering the Mixer Alpha Mundine. Boom, just smacked him with the biggest card that I knew that was coming up. I walked back with the person with me, and she's like to me, you're not doing that. I'm like, yeah, I'm doing it. Don't worry, give me a week or two. Then about 3 weeks, I had it covered. Both teams, both corners, on the podcast, lined that up. It's that power of belief. If you feel that you're capable, you've done the rounds, you've done the training session, you haven't taken a shortcut, you're on that training pitch, comes a long way. Because I know in fighting, it may be different to football. You can't do anything the day of. Whatever's been done's done. If you've cheated with your diet, you've cheated with your diet. Your match fitness is not there. Your match fitness is not there. I'm sure City at all times knew that they'd still turn the tide. When one went in, it seemed like it was a matter of time. And unfortunately, boys, I don't know if you guys are Liverpool fans, but Slippery G slips again for Liverpool, and he couldn't hold it. You know,
he sure did. He slipped all that way.
Bro, I thought it was in the fairy tale. Philip Coutinho scores for Aston Villa. I thought, man, it's written here. But then they came back, man.
Did you miss the huddle, Jamie? The huddle when he bring the boys in. He goes, we can't slip for me. Fast forward, Chelsea, then boom, slips. Come on, champ. He's done it. He teases him. He's a good-looking fella.
Poor bloke, mate. He's a legend in the game, the poor bloke, honestly.
He is, mate. The guy's a legend, but he's notorious for slipping for Liverpool. Bro, I was giving him so much slack today. I think Liverpool fans are going to kill me. But it was interesting when they asked Pep after the game, they're like, did you know that you were going to get the 3 goals? He's like, yeah, I called Real Madrid.
Yeah, that's right. I saw that. He said, I called Real Madrid.
Oh,
that was clever. That was cheeky.
That was gold. I like that. You got to be witty, man.
Oh, did you see the one where, I don't know if it was true, but when Salah scored the goal, like he was celebrating, and some guy in the fans like,
one of the Liverpool fans told him the rule result and he got upset. I don't know how true it is.
I don't know if that was true,
but did you hear the Anfield? They reckon they gave a false result at Anfield during a game that Man City weren't winning.
And they celebrated.
And they were celebrating around the stadium.
No, they were celebrating at the right time. They probably wrecked it. I watched it live. No, they celebrated them. They were in shock at the correct times. No.
People be just doing all banned.
So what they did was they put it out of context probably. They grabbed that, then they grabbed that, and they juggled it, muggled it up.
So who do you support?
You're a Man City?
Nah, bro, I'm a neutral to be fair. Like I cover sports. I can't wake up at 2, 3, 4 in the morning. For me to be a fan, I got to be there. I got to watch it. I got to be all in.
Yeah. I'm not a true fan either. I'll go for whoever wins.
That's me. I appreciate good talent. You know, when Mourinho came, I appreciate Mourinho's style. He's a bit of a grub. He parks behind the bus. No one likes him. I'm a fan. When Zlatan came, I was with Zlatan. I appreciate talent.
100%. Yeah. But I mean, look, we obviously met the other day at Ultra, which was just random, right? 100%. And we had a great long chat. Jamie, you weren't there, but your story is cool too. And I love your resilience and the way you spoke about people having their opinions, knockbacks and all that. You know, Jamie doesn't know much, but again, like I know your viewers know your story, but our viewers don't know much about you. So tell us again your cool story, because it's amazing what you've done for yourself.
Look, like you guys would know with football, now football is a very subjective sport. A coach comes in, a captain comes in, someone likes a certain style, they want to push a certain play, certain players will be attracted. And I guess that's with everyone, you know, I might not be everyone's cup of tea. You guys might not be everyone's cup of tea, but it's fine. You shouldn't have to impose your will on someone and tell them and limit them that they're not capable of doing such thing. So I think the instilling self-belief and understanding, like we said a bit earlier, when I said the Zarafa Mundine, I was going to cover it. I knew, and in my head, I envisioned that I knew what I had to do to do it. I was going to do it. So I feel that with anything, you need to actualize your potential, you need to be uncomfortable, you need to get out there, and you need to put yourself out there to achieve such heights. I struggled with that at the start because a lot of people will obviously not want you to do certain things because they believe you're incapable, you know, and that should never limit you, define you, because you believe in you, in so to say. So I'm sure you guys would understand that from a footballing perspective, because, geez, how many footballers are there and what's the percentage of making it? I couldn't imagine people telling you guys you'd make a career or a living and be successful.
Yeah, very sure. But if you have your own opinion, believe in yourself, that's what's important, versus
100%.
someone's opinion that's not aligned with your dream.
100%. And Jamie, you're still an active footballer. Talk to us at the age of 21, NPL. You've got a lot of experience, but not a lot of people can buy the experience. Something I've learned in life is you appreciate things more once you've gone through such a struggle, because it didn't come easy to you, where someone else might have had it on a silver platter. I remember speaking to, the player agent from Europe, Maurice Pellegrini. Now, I'm pretty close with him on Instagram and stuff, and we go back and forth and we talk. Bro, he's had players, and I've told him straight off the bat that he's hooked up with professional contracts only because they're kids of or related to or being pushed by certain people. Now, I don't want to burn any bridges that I do have, but they won't appreciate the struggle that you'd have, because you've been there, done that, come back, and now you're going up again. Talk to us about the struggles and overcoming all this stuff.
Look, I think the hardest bit for me, bro, was coming back to Australia. I had this mentality of, I don't want to come back. I'm never coming back. You know, like, hated Australia, hated football in Australia. I always had this mentality was, I'm never going to make it here. There's nothing here. There's nothing here for me. But I came to a realization where I thought I had to come back, because I wasn't in the right mindset. Like what I said before, I wasn't in the right mindset. I had to be around my family. And then I decided to go back to 100 at a time. Was it a good decision? I'm not too sure. It is what it is. I put it behind me. And then COVID hit. And I remember, before I came, actually, when I arrived at once, I was overweight. And then I wasn't fit enough. And then I remember with Pedj during COVID, we trained so much. I trained my ass off. I remember going first session back in the training. I was the fittest person there. And then things weren't going my way. And then I just started blaming, what's going on? I was blaming people. Oh, this person was there because so-and-so knows this person. And just started pointing fingers, blaming the world. And then once I left that A-League environment, it was a bit difficult to adjust to playing NPL, say semi-professional environment, being a semi-professional. So I decided to move to Melbourne. And that look, I think the real reason why I moved to Melbourne was because I want to go to a place where no one knew me, where I wasn't, in Sydney, and in my mindset it was I'd failed. That makes sense. So I decided to move out of Sydney, go to Melbourne, where for me I was a new person. No one knew me. I didn't know anyone, and I got to just go and enjoy my football, and I didn't have pressure from no one. So I decided to go play. Then I loved my time in Melbourne, and then unfortunately I came back because of COVID, and then now I'm playing at Rockdale in the NPL first team. We're doing really well this season. We're actually third at the moment. So you can say I've had experience, but not enough compared to some of the boys. Some of the boys in my team, they've come from A-League, and I'm only 21 still. I'm still really, really young. And I obviously still have ambitions to play at a higher level, either A-League, either go back overseas. So I'm just learning off people. I'm learning off the older boys in my team. I'm learning off Pedj. I'm fortunate Pedj was a defender, so I learn stuff with him. But yeah, I'm still young, man. I'm still 21. I'm just grinding away, and hopefully one day that the opportunity comes.
100%. Do you feel you're a better person though for the experience? Because look, football is a sport, and Pedj will tell you better than anyone. It goes and comes real quick, like life does. Do you feel that you've learnt lessons now that are lifelong lessons, that I'm sure the responsibility of knowledge is to pass it down from Imam al-Baqir alayhi salam, but Pedj passes that down on a day-to-day basis? Do you feel that you've grown as a person and appreciate football and what you have?
Man, I think, honestly, if it wasn't for me going overseas, I wouldn't have grown up at such a young age. It helped me grow as a person. I left home at 15, 16, man. Left home at 15, 16. I went to a family, hosted them. I had no idea who they were, We FaceTime a little bit, packed my bag, packed my suitcase. This is what I wanted to do. My parents were like, is this what we really want? I said, man, this is what I want. And I just took off. I went to a family that I didn't know who they were. You know what I mean? I went to a country, I didn't know how to speak the language. And man, made me grow up so young. It made me grow up, So I think I was very lucky. Obviously I learned experiences of football, met people, played against big teams, big players, but also life lessons. I learned a lot of life lessons.
Nah, crazy. Pedj, how have you seen Jamie's progression in the time that you've gone because the maturity will be shown and seen on a day-to-day basis with yourself. He's going to throw you under the bus. He's going to throw you under the bus.
No, he'll tell you.
I get anxiety tablets from this guy. I have to go see doctors
You
now.
say I'm annoying on this, on that. Well, that's why we get along so well, bro.
They're
'cause we're the
compliments.
same person.
They're
But if we're the
compliments.
same person, it wouldn't have worked.
I guess, look, I like to step across boundaries and lines in my business. That's how I like to connect with people. And so with Jamie, because you bond with, like you said, you bond with people more than others, just the way the world. You can't bond with everyone. And like, I don't want to know everyone. It's impossible. So with Jamie, seems like I've got more of a license to cross lines together. And therefore, I can push things harder, come down harder when needed, or rise when I need. So when I sense earlier on that there's a distraction mechanism coming in or an excuse about to come, I come with the sword hard. And it might be annoying some, but you know, he's obviously grateful for it. And the reason why I do this is because it reminds me that I never had this help when I was young.
Yeah.
And this is why it's so important that they always say, you know, older people, they see things before youngsters. I can actually start to say that now. That doesn't mean that he doesn't have an idea. Of course he does. He has his own views. He's his person. You don't change the guy. All you do is you help mold and polish what he is. And that's the idea of and role that I try and play. And so he can be the best version of himself. Now, I don't tell him what to do. I just guide in the sense of what do you want to become? What is important to you right now at this age? What do you value more? Work, football, personal, girlfriend, clubbing, whatever it may be. Put that in order and actually start direct yourself towards it.
100%, man. Because look, football in general, like unfortunately, it's a very stingy industry where people don't really share those lessons and they don't really give the time that's needed to nourish and nurture the next generation. Because, brother, a lot of kids that are coming up now that are all in on football, are all out of school. They don't want to do anything else. All their bread's in one basket. All their trust is in one guy. And they're hoping that this fella's going to do all the work for them. But when I talk to them and I'm like, because I've had a lot of athletes on the podcast, I might not be the best footballer in the world, but I could see success once I interact with. And I'm like, are you doing your extras? Are you doing your stretching? You're going out all the time. You're telling me you want to be a footballer. You're training 1 hour a day, 5 days a week. How the hell are you going to become a footballer when you're not putting in the body of work? It just doesn't make sense.
Not at all. Not at all. And that's that comes down to that sacrifice and dedication of knowing that. I mean, Kobe Bryant said it best. He said in one of his interviews that if a guy gets up at 9 a.m., trains 11 to 1, has lunch, then trains 3 to 5, has dinner, goes to bed. So he's trained twice a day from waking up at 9. And he goes, imagine if you get up at 4 a.m., you train from 5 to 7, have breakfast, train from 9 to 11, go have lunch, train 1 to 3, have a sleep, train 5 to 6, have dinner. You've trained 4 times in one day. Over every day, across 3 months, 4 months, you are now already ahead of your opponent, no matter what, because of the extras you're doing. And it all comes down to commitment, lifestyle change. And if you truly, truly want, if you want something, you'll get it. And just like how you said, you visualize, you want that on your podcast, the 2 boxes, and you made it happen.
100%, man. And a good boxing analogy for that is as well, it's a body of work that you do in that time. Like, for example, a fight camp will be 8 weeks, right? But when the going gets tough and you've been punched in the face, Mike Tyson himself says that all plans go out the window. Everyone's got a plan until they get punched in the face. So what now comes into it is all those sessions you've done, the muscle memory over your whole career. So all those mistakes that you did will creep in. You know, when you're fatigued in football, all the stuff that you shouldn't be doing, you're going to come in because you've cheated for 10 years. How are you going to expect success now?
100%. 100%. You can't, you know, that fake till you make this thing it's bullshit because fake is empty. It's not real. So you can't
100%.
make it.
100%, boys. So talk to us about Between the Lines. You guys are keeping it real. Talk to the viewers from my side. What's it to expect from the fellas, from the boys?
Go on, Jamie. Tell us about the design, Jamie. Because
Yeah, he likes the design. Interior designer, Jamie.
No, look, we always spoke about we want to do something together. You know, we had our ideas, other ideas, and we always said we want to do something. I said, Pedj, bro, let's do a podcast, man. I did say it to you.
Yeah,
I did say to you.
Look, mindset's my thing, and I've done a lot of chats here, and I've done seminars on mindsets. I've hosted things. I've always wanted to do something, but I felt like I don't want to be a solo. I just feel like I need a bounce. And we've talked about a few ideas, and when Jamie mentioned it, I was like, yeah, all right. Jamie's personality, my personality, were different. People may like that, may not, and the whole point of Between the Lines is exactly what it means. As life on and off the field, the reality of politics, the bullshit of what happens. It's about being you, uncovering your mask and living true to who you are. And that's the idea behind it. It's black and white. It's great.
So refreshing. You guys compliment each other, huh? What one brings, the other brings, and what the other doesn't. I like
compliment. Sometimes. Wait till we go off air.
Wait till we get off air. No, it's
wait till it cools tomorrow morning.
Bro, it's refreshing, man, because there's not that many personalities in football in this country. Like I speak in the boxing world. You talk to me about boxing in this country. Name me personalities that cover. When you look at America, you talk about your Stephen A's, you talk about your Ariel Hawani, you talk about individuals because they're allowed to have a voice and say something that's different to the mainstream. In this country, unfortunately, there's a monopoly on football, on most sports, because a couple of cash brokers want to push an agenda. And if you say anything, you can't bloody have a voice. And that's unfortunate. So Between the Lines is very important, especially in the footballing world. You've both been there, done that. It's very refreshing for the audience to understand the perspective from someone who's there.
100%. And that's why it's like, it's not about like saying it's my way or the highway, but this is a platform where it's just real. We don't have an idea to manipulate. It's just we're not saying we're right. It's just our version of our stories, but it's storytelling too, because there's people that listen in that may go through this, but don't know how to open up and hear it. So if they hear someone else talk about it, like, oh, wow, they've gone through it. Maybe I can talk to someone about it or deal with it.
Mate, 100%, boys. So talk to us what's next, mate. You're going live for the Champions League final. Do you do anything different like that or anything quirky, or is it still in the start process?
I don't think Pedj would wake up to watch the Champions League final.
5 a.m. Come on. It's training then.
Come on. Get up to watch the game. I don't even think he knows who's playing.
Yeah, Barca against VRL.
Look, honestly,
there's things that we've been done, but
to watch football, wake up in the morning.
No. There's a few things that we want to be doing more of, but Jamie's, he has to be honest, he's going to pull in a little bit more there.
Yeah.
Jamie's a bit busy, he's got other things on his mind. So.
Yeah. No, look, content creation, man, needs time, boys.
Yeah.
You don't know what goes off. Bro, I went to a boxing card, right? The main event got 50,000 views on Facebook. The 3 fights before got 350,000 views. So if I don't cover that fight, I don't get the million exposure for that whole event, which means I don't get further events that come. And a lot of people don't understand the grind of that. They're like, why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? You don't know what's going to happen. It's really quantity over quality. It's the total opposite of what you think.
100%. Yeah, you got to. That's what, and like we're pumping out 3-4 episodes a week. The idea Between the Lines, it's not navigated towards football. We want to cover all sports. That's why we talk to people like yourselves and other guests to share their stories. So the idea is for Between the Lines to get to where we want. But if it doesn't, we love what we're doing right now and we're enjoying what we're doing. But the vision is we have our structured categories where we need to hit, and we're phase 1. We're pretty happy where we're at right now, which is awesome. And
obviously just learning, we're learning.
Well, yeah, learning about each other and about how things work, and just even learning about cameras and microphones and lights.
I'm the biggest novice. I come here when I started the podcast. I didn't know what anything was. I still barely know what anything is.
I know, right? I'm like, what am I looking at right now? It's a blank screen.
Bro, I'm looking at my computer screen, but my camera's here, and there's 1,000 monitors. I'm like, I gotta make eye contact here.
No, your left side looks good.
It's my good side, if I have one.
Now that you obviously do a lot of boxing there, you've done a bit of football. What do you passionately love doing about interviewing? What code, or you don't mind? What do you love the most?
For me, I always grew up wanting to do what I'm doing now. So it's always mixing and learning from people that have done and achieved things that others haven't, and learning how you got there, because a lot of people perceive that Pedj.
Just cover.
Yeah, man. So for me, it's always something I wanted to do. So I don't envision limiting myself in any way, because I don't feel you should, because I speak with people from all walks of life, and it's all about inspiring the next generation and trying to give them knowledge that probably wasn't afforded to them. Like maybe I've had nutritionists on and people that weren't exposed to certain food groups that react or lead you to be in certain ways. Or I've had academics, professors from university come on, talk to us about the grind of this is, if you want to achieve this, this is what you got to go through. You know, footballers like yourself, Jamie's got an amazing story. Pedj, you've been there, done that. So for me, it's about connecting, networking with these types of people, and then offering possibly the next generation, once they get a studio, an opportunity to be content creators and actualize their potential. Because growing up, if I did anything on social media, it was seen as weird, awkward. What are you doing? You're making a mockery out of yourself. So I've been speaking about podcasting since I was a kid. AJP has been going on forever, and I never had the confidence to do so because the environment was toxic and limiting, and it was very dismissive rather than uplifting. So for me, if I can be a voice who helps one person, and like what you're doing, Pedj, with Jamie, and what Jamie will do in the future, you never forget these things, man, because it's uplifting, it's inspiring, and it's a responsibility once you have a platform to give back.
100%. And that's what it's all about, is having like a voice to share. And Jamie, your voice now with other youngsters that you train in here, and me to others. And I guess I remember when I was 15, when my world was rocked upside down, I never had any help. And I remember making a vow that when I become a senior pro, I'm going to make sure every young kid feels welcome and part of the team, not to prove to be in the team, but just to be themselves. And I've always carried that mentality where I genuinely think I have more friendships with people 10, 15 years older than me or younger than me.
Yeah.
I feel like that's my circle of connections, because I've always feel like the ones older than me, I'm learning off them. They have no ego to put me down. Where the youngsters, they're trying to like, I'm trying to help them. But at the same time, the young ones got their own way of doing things. So it's a great collaboration.
Yeah, it's good like that, because not many people like that. You got older boys, like you've been in the first grade environment, you're a young kid, they look at you like, who's this young punk gonna come there, steal my spot. So it's good. There's not many older boys to do that. We'll take you under the wing and say, hey man, like, look, this is what you should be doing. There's obviously older ones who are like thinking, stuff this bloke.
It's crazy, bro. And that's why, like, I have a very, because as a Muslim, I've got a very God-conscious idea on life. Now, for us in religion, all the Abrahamic faiths, sustenance is from God. It's not from the people. So if you're going to make it, you're going to make it no matter what. Your test is, are you going to grass cut someone? Are you going to sabotage someone? Well, that makes you an absolute scum. And that's what you are if you actually do that. So if you see life like that, you look at a younger guy and you're like, this guy's got a lot of ambition. He's done less wrong than me. Even if you don't know anything, you give him the benefit of the doubt and you want to nurture him to be a better person and not take the wrong shortcuts that you did. And you look at someone like Pedj and you see him as someone that's wise. He's been there. He's done that. I've got so much to learn from, rather than I've got to be better than him, because that's a negative mindset and that's wasteful energy, because everything in life is energy. You can turn it positively or negatively based on your perception of life. And for me, it's a waste of energy to look at things in a wrong way. And unfortunately, people are very limiting, man. And it's a job for people like us and the audience watching. It's not wrong to wish well on others, because what's meant to be is meant to be. You work hard, you're going to get it. All these conspiracies that you got to do private sessions 5 a.m. in the morning and not go out with your best mate so you both get better is bollocks. Because if you both go, you both become better, because you both bring something different to the table. And then when the going gets tough in the 80th minute, you know, I was in the trenches with my mate when I was younger. It paid off.
100%. Yep. And there's a lot of people want to use people as lily pads to step on them to get ahead and put them underwater. And it's unfortunate, because it's the society that we live in. There's a lot. I mean, there's so much good in the world, but
100%.
it's problem. Evil travels quicker and can easily influence and manipulate. And that's why we have people that do this and that, drugs, alcohol, whatever. You know, I got dragged into clubbing when I was young and got distracted by football. I went through a bit of a bad time, so I was hanging around the wrong people. I was escaping my reality of pain to be accepted in the boys' circle and do this and do that. And I still remember one game. What did he say, my friend? Well, friend, he said, oh, you know, you don't want to stay out too late with the club with me like that. I go, dude, I'm playing the next morning. I'm coming out with you every weekend, knowing that I get a game next. I shouldn't be coming out.
Yeah.
So he was worried that I wasn't staying out late, and I'm here trying to justify I'm out. That's how bad the influence I was around. I was trying to say,
it's not easy, bro. That's not easy. I couldn't imagine that being easy for you to have reached the heights you could have reached, because at such a young age, football, that's your time span. Like that's where your be or end all is because, and no one understands, they don't care. And that's where you see the real people from the fake. I remember having Chock Mundine on the podcast, and Chock recorded a story of when all the boys or his friends, so-called quote unquote, were doing a smoko sesh, and they told him to come and have a smoko. And Chock remember saying no, and the look that they gave him, they made him feel like an alien. They ostracized him. Chock told me he went out of that room, he ran up to the Park Hill, and he bawled his eyes out saying, I'm going to make it now. I'm not going to be like them. That was because his father was an athlete who instilled that if you go down that route, goodbye rugby league, goodbye whatever you want to do. And I'm sure that's something that you both resonate with.
Yeah, for sure. And look, there was a lot of times in my career where I felt like I've been robbed and I should have been higher than I was. But I understand my journey. So look, I'll tell a quick story and how it all unfolded. So at 15, I was probably regarded as top 3 in the country at the time, which is a pretty cool thing. Went to the UK on trial with an Ipswich Town who was in a Premier League at the time in a youth system. So after a month, I went from their under 15s, I put with their 19-year-olds, saying I was too good for their 15s and 17s. So confidence is super high. They offered me a 4-year deal, and all I needed was my mum's visa. It was Greek to enter the UK because it's part of the United Kingdom, where Serbia isn't. That's my dad's background, nor is Australia. So therefore, come home, super excited. Like, Mum, I'm going to get my visa to follow my dreams. She goes, sit down, I have to tell you something. So I'm like, okay, that something's wrong. Yeah. I remember like it was yesterday at the kitchen table, she goes, Pedj, I'm not your real mother. Your real mother is Serbian. So in 1 second, I've just lost my contract because Serbia is not part of EU, and I've just lost my identity as a young boy. So dad's there, mum's there, table, and I'm like, nah, it's okay, all good, still love you, still my mum. Strong boy, don't show pain. Before I knew it, got expelled from school. Had a pro contract in an old NSL at a team called Parramatta Power. So I signed it because I was kicked out of school, and why not? So I moved from Wollongong up to Parramatta. Now I'm a 15, 16-year-old boy, walking the streets, 2 a.m. lost, started hanging around gangs. Without getting into detail, hanging around the wrong people, lost to this world. Fast forward 2 years, I'm 17, almost turning 18. I get a 3-year deal opportunity to go to Feyenoord in Holland. With Brett Holman, I say no to go nightclubbing, which I did. So I did clubbing. Brett Holman went on and did great. But I mean, like I said, I could have broken my leg. I don't know. But at the time, I felt, what the hell am I doing? So I went to the UK after that at a lower level and played 3 years, which was great. Then I had a career-threatening injury at 23. Gave up football, came home, became a trainer, which I didn't want to do because all I knew was football, and now it's another dark time. But it was the best decision ever because it set me up for where I am today. Becoming a trainer taught me so many things about becoming a man. My injury somehow got better, which was great, and I resurrected it in the A-League for the next 7 years to become one of the best right backs out. And I was enough to retire 31, 32, which was still young because I could still be playing, but I chose to walk away due to politics, but also I had a decision because I had a business already set up from 23. So that's my journey, but it's not a sad story because that's my path. But I felt sad, I felt depressed, I felt down through it because I didn't know how to deal with it.
100%, Brian. It's crazy, man, because honestly, something that I've learned, and it's learning, I haven't really learned, it's never to resent an opportunity that didn't come or something of that nature, because it always works out in the end if you stick through the course. Now, it's easy said than done. It's easy to say, oh, keep doing your extras, Jamie, keep doing what you got to do. It'll make sense one day. It may not ever make sense to what someone else perceives, but it'll make sense in the context of your life, somehow, some way, if you stay true to yourself. And the easier way is to drop off, like you said, Pedj, and it could be a girlfriend, it could be a boyfriend, it could be a gang, it could be a certain group of friends. It doesn't have to necessarily be the worst thing in the world, but that could be something that leads you astray from your goals and your dreams and your aspirations. That also meant you weren't true to yourself, and the tough times got tough and you let go of you. Because we said earlier, no one believes in you but you. So as soon as you release or relinquish that belief system and the trust that you have within yourself to stick through the course, you're going to get lost quick, man. And ain't anybody going to care. Because, Pedj, you can attest to this. Once you've made it and the bright lights are on you, you've played A-League All-Stars, you've played under 17s at the highest of levels for country, club, won premierships, played in front of, mate, you played in the golden era of the A-League. Then all that goes away one day. All those people that wanted tickets, want to be your best mates, where are they now? Honestly, you could tell us better than anyone.
Yeah, I mean, that's right. I mean, look, you have a glamorous life of being an athlete, and everyone wants to be that, and people will be your friends. And look, and that's one thing I learned, I guess I learned earlier when I was living on the streets and hanging around people, is you quickly find out reality and realism from people. So I was fortunate from those times to pull myself back from the bullshit and not get involved, maybe too far, because I guess in those times are really, true to your word, hand on heart, and you pride, you're a man. But yeah, and look, when that all goes, it's always nice being in TV, playing on the crowds. People, whether they boo you or sing your name, it doesn't matter. It's still part of a cool feeling. So when that all comes down, you pull yourself back, and sometimes you can start to see realities in true people. And also too, and there's one thing I try and help with other youngsters that are on a successful page, and some have gone further than me in their career, who I'm very close with, and have given warning signs across time, and they started to see years later, say, man, you were right about this person. I go, I know, because I can see where these people's incentives are, where their agendas are. And you're innocently young, which is great, and you're trying to do the right thing, but some people just want to try and drag you down, and that's the unfortunate side of the world that we live in.
100%, and it's so prevalent, if we're going to be truthful and call a spade in the football world. Geez, I spent not that long in the football world, and geez, I ran away just as quick as I tried to answer it, because, bro, it's so toxic. You got so much politicians. I know we've had the elections recently, but every club has its politics. Every guy's like, I don't know how you got here, and every sponsor's got pull, and they want to own the club and control the club, and it's you follow the dollar sign, and everything makes sense. And jeez Louise.
You've seen that side of the sponsorship sides as well. Yeah.
Oh man, it's bad. But then you can't do anything about it.
You can't control it.
And you point the fingers and stuff, and then it's so hard. You start blaming, I didn't make it because of these people there or those people there. Man, I've heard so many stories. Like, I remember when I came back from Australia, I had some agent contact me, say, hey man, do you want to go play back overseas? I said, yeah, no problem. Like, I'll come, get a contract. He's like to me, yeah, no problem if we pay the coach a little bit half your wage. And I'm thinking, what the hell, man, So it happens, people pay their way to get in. Sponsors have big say, and it's bad. It ruins the football world. It honestly does.
Bro, it's crazy. Yeah. I know families saving up 32,000. Geez, I'm going to get a lot of slack for this, to send their kid overseas because they're going to get a trial and they've been promised certain things. You're putting a mortgage, you're putting more straight on a mortgage on a false promise. Jamie, you said earlier, you've never paid for a trial. Pedj, yourself, you've been invited to Premier League setups and championship setups. Is this a thing? Like, do you really have to buy your way in, or is that just a false pretext to try and live out your child's dream?
No, it's not always. Obviously, in merit, you get your way, and there's a lot of talent that do make their way. But there are these agencies and people that have an under-tables agreement where you target the rich with kids, and then they can pay their way into certain countries. And I'm not going to name names, but there's one in the headlines that's worked now with, I'm talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars to make it, and has. But then you got a question, right? Say this person goes on to be the next best thing.
Yeah.
And then, was it a true crime that he did what he did 10 years earlier? Did he have the talent? And maybe this was the way in. Look, I'm all on merit. I believe you should prove yourself to get chosen. That's my way, and it always is. But I guess what really is the hurting question is, let's go back to the youth development here, where this is where it's hurting the young. These sponsorship, these pools, these 12-year-old innocent kids who might have talent but don't have the mindset yet, see these things happening, then quit the game because I don't want to play because this kid's playing because of this, that, and that. And they quit, and then their talent's lost.
Bro, same story. Remember last week, Paddy said the same story. We had someone on last week, we had a boy, he had a contract at Wanderers, and it came in where he wanted to sign for the club. He wanted to sign for the club at that time, and the only way he could sign if his dad's consent was there. He had to have his dad's consent. Unfortunately, his dad wasn't there at the time, so then the club pulled against him. The club believed that he wasn't going to sign, but thought the right thing he would have done. We just wanted to have his dad there to sign consent. And there goes, there goes his contract. And then he wasn't able to train the first time. His dad just pulled him away from the sport. Said, "Look, man, it's not worth it. It's mentally draining. It's not worth it. Go study. Go uni now." And the poor kid now doesn't play soccer anymore, and he's just studying and doing uni. So his dad didn't want him to go through the ugly side of the sport.
Yeah, look, it's a tough one because I do sincerely feel sorry for the kids that are burdened with the pressure of living their parents' dreams, of being forced into these things, and they've splashed the cash for you to be there. Because there comes a certain time and place. Do you want to do it for you? And if you want to do it for you, there's a right way of going about it. And because of the politics in this country and the corruption, football's suffering. Like you look at the Futsal World Cup, the men and the women, we've both done nothing. We couldn't even qualify against countries I can't even tell you. We're looking at the World Cup at the moment. Mate, a couple of oil-rigged countries are now in places to qualify, and we're nowhere near. When Gus told us put a 50-year plan, the Japs had a 100-year plan, and we're telling him, what do you know about football? And then we're thinking we want Band-Aid solutions, and we go, come here, Pim Verbate, come over here. Then they come and they trash the A-League, and they start doing certain things, and we're paying them X amount of dollars, and then we don't learn the lesson from this one. We go to the next one. And it's just a continuation of stupidity at the highest of levels, and it's because of corruption and money. They want quick money, man. They don't want, like all these big corporations, they want to cut costs from the people that livelihood depend on them and maximize profits. But how sustainable is that? For how long is it going to get you?
That's right. That's right. And you're right. It's a band-aid solution. You can't keep covering up little potholes along the way. You need to lay a foundation, right? And Gus was the light of that start. And I believe, and I still say this, the A-League made the biggest mistake at that first World Cup after all those years. I was in England, but the whole country was excited. Non-soccer fans were watching the sport because we just made our first World Cup. I believe the A-League right then and there should have had a youth system set up from scratch. Yeah. From young to the youth. I mean, they didn't put a reserve league until 7 years into the A-League.
It wasn't in full time.
And then another 3 years, they brought in under 13s to 16s, which is Wanderers and Sydney. And then Mariners came in not long after. My point is, imagine in 2006, you implemented that, because guess what? In the first 2 years of anything, you're going to have mistakes. You're going to have failures, this and that. So in 2006, if you have the foundations right, by 2020, 14 years later, all these youngsters are your cream prop playing first grade, overseas, whatever, because you've led them correctly. And how do you gain, and I still think this is my idea, how do you sustain fans? Well, in 2006, the country was on high. What did David Beckham do in MLS? He just took it to the next level because he was a superstar. So I believe the A-League should have got one superstar per team if they're going to do marquees, like proper I'm talking about. Flood that for a couple of years, get this excitement. And by then, our youth will be so strong and powerful that we're going to be now taking storm. That's my view.
You played against Del Piero, didn't you? Del Piero when he came. Del Piero, he killed it when he came in, man. The crowds. But there was a time where 4 years I didn't miss a Sydney FC home game. Like there was a time where the crowds back then are about 3 times the size of the crowds now. And we've got more teams now. So I'm not really understanding the growth of the game. They went to rugby league, for goodness sake. They got the CEO from rugby league to come run the game. Like literally, with their decisions, they've conceded that they don't know what's going on. You know, Wollongong's pulling a good crowd. You know, I don't know why they're not in the league. I don't know why we don't have a second tier. I don't know why we still have a salary cap. I don't think we're playing rugby league. You know, you guys at Central Coast nurtured the Australian squad practically. And where was the club's initiative? Where was the incentive for the club? Like, why are they to produce such players? You know, there's no incentive. So you follow the dollar, and unfortunately, it doesn't pay to be a footballing system, because now, I think it's going to get worse, because the NPL system is losing credibility with certain types of people who are going the academy route and they're playing full-time academy football. That's got nothing to do with the kids that are playing full-time private school football. It's just gone. It's a shit show at the moment.
Yeah, no, everything's going down. And what sort of image in the paper the other day of, I think 6 years ago, and today's crowd packed empty. And the derby was at its lowest. Sydney FC Wanderers derby was at lowest of 10,000
They'll
people.
give you free tickets away if you spend a certain amount of money at McDonald's. You're getting free tickets. But back in the day, I remember when I was younger, and Wanderers came out. No, that lead up to the weekend was massive, man. It was Wanderers playing. Get to Paramount Stand, get a ticket. Like, it was the best thing to go watch. The crowd, the crowd was there. Like, I used to go, not even watch the game. I went to see the crowd, bro.
The crowd was crazy. Ask Pedj the grand final. How was that grand final, bro?
Bro, and now you're going and look, you're thinking, like, what's going on? People don't want to come. People don't want to come. Why? Because they've killed the crowds. Two, the results not coming. Look at Wanderers now. They haven't made a finals since pop up. They haven't. Obviously now they've kicked people out of the club. They've got some new people. Hopefully it works out for them. I really do hope so, but we don't know. I agree with what Pedj said. When that 2067, they should have brought in big players, man. They should have brought the big players and grown the league. But also, the problem is, like what you said, is clubs are also, what I think is too, clubs don't make enough money on players. You look at big clubs, big leagues in the world. If someone gets transferred from one club to another, there's a transfer fee. In Australia, people can just move whenever they want. The clubs don't make any money off players. You know what I mean? Like, some guy could salary cap. Some guy could wake up tomorrow and say, "Oh, I don't want to play anymore," and then move to free.
We've gone all sexy for our life.
Move to Raw. So clubs are not making any money like that. There's no transfer within Australia. Yeah, they're hoping someone goes overseas, but then why not get transfers in between Australia so clubs can make money? And then we say salary cut.
It's crazy, man, because the executives at high branches of organizations are making the money. So they're laying in the cash, and then they're putting budgets on people. Like, I know from the Australian setup, I don't want to throw names under the bus, but when they're traveling, certain staff members actually have to buy their bloody tickets, believe it or not, and they're full-time employees. So it's not run like a professional organization. It's run like a charity organization that doesn't have funds. And you're looking, you're like, bro, what are you on about? You're not taking these guys, or you're offering them, you pay your own ticket, we'll get you in the hotel. What the hell's going on there?
But then how can we get a big name player who's going to come? Like, the salary cap's $3 million for a club.
But for a marquee is outside the salary cap.
Yeah, okay, but who can afford a good marquee player? Sydney FCs and Melbourne Victories.
But this is where you come down and you have a proper foundation, and you get the heads of the heads, and they put in this strategy of 4 or 5, 6 year plan.
But I agree, but clubs don't have money. I'll give you an example. I don't know if it's true, and I've heard stories. A player at the moment, Central Coast Mariners, all right, he played all season. He was playing all these games. In his contract, he had said if he had played, say, 30 games, that Mariners had to give him a new contract, and they'd have to pay him double. What they've done, the bloke hasn't played a game there. I
don't doubt that.
They don't have the money. They don't have the money to.
Yeah. Well, I've seen that a lot in my career, and it's whether they have the money or not. Which, look, I was at Mariners, and I know that club quite well. And look, they're not a club that throws a lot of things, and I think at one time Mariners almost got penalised for going under their salary cap. I'm being honest. That was 1 year, right? But I've heard it all the time. Players have contract 30 games. They play 29 games.
Yeah, 29 games.
30th game doesn't play rest of it. Because that coach, I'm telling you, and I'm not going to name names, but I've seen this. That coach will go to the club, say it's a 50 grand bonus. The coach will go, look, he's got one game to get 50 grand. Let's not play him. You give me 10 grand extra on my contract as a coach. You say 40 grand. Deal.
Yeah.
That's how it can work in this world. And it's unfortunate. Not everywhere, not all the time. But yes. But look, I mean,
it's a business.
That's going into another question. But back to like the clubs, not the crowds. The crowds aren't there. I don't know if the people are bored. I don't watch the A-League much because I get bored. It's the same teams every week. Like,
bro, it's on Paramount now. No one's watching it anymore. Like, it was hard enough when it was on Fox.
Bro, even this, like, you watch Paramount and it cuts out. Like, you're paying money to watch games, it cuts out, you know? So it's like, what's going on here? And I watched the A-League a bit because I got mates playing there, but there's no big plays in the A-League. Like, you don't get excited to go watch a game. Like we said, Del Piero came. Oh, man, it's Del Piero. He's a big player we're talking about. Now, who's the biggest player in the league at the moment? Milos Ninkovic would say 36, 37. Like, who else? There's no big names.
But even like, you don't need big names because, okay, so the big names help, right? But I remember watching Central Coast Mariners. Central Coast Mariners at the time, Pedj was there against any team. You're talking about, you got Pedj, you got a Meany, you had a Beanie, you had even, you had a lot. Matty Ryan was coming through the ranks. You had a lot of players. that were talented Australians that later go on to make the national team. Even McBean, man, I used to love McBean. You know, he was a story that everyone wanted to be. Yeah, it's like you start to follow and enjoy and different people, you know, and it's very important. Okay, that marquee player, but if that marquee player brings attraction to the league. Now the question is, after Del Piero, what do we do?
That's right, and that exactly to your point is what I was saying. If you have that foundation from 2006, you're going to enjoy watching these talents because they're producing good football.
100%. Yeah.
That's the point. It's good football.
Yeah, but look how smart now America is. They've captured Del Piero. Now he's a part of the youth. He's here. He's going helping clubs out. Why didn't we keep him, Del Piero, here? Why didn't we say, mate, we'll keep you here? You know, help us grow the league.
Well, that's it. I mean, but look, David Beckham is a prime example of MLS. I know this because when I was in England, I had a contract in the MLS at New England, Boston, before David Beckham, and it was similar to the A-League contract, from my understanding. So I thought, well, why would I go there when I just go home? That's the mindset, right? So went home, well, career through an injury. But anyway, when David Beckham went, the wages quadrupled.
Yeah.
Players going from where I went in England will get in houses, cars, 4 times the wages, all because of one guy lifted. The crowds are lifted. And the MLS has now sustained a high level of playing where I think it's outshone A-League.
Have you read now what they said about Messi? Messi might be signing out David Beckham's team. Why? He's going to get a cut of the club.
Yeah.
How smart? You know what? How smart are they?
But they're producing crowds and they're bringing in.
But the national team, they want the national team to grow. They want America to be a powerhouse. So if Australia's fair income about being a great country and one of a T1 football, you got to put the money in because then that's going to produce talent and results will show for itself. That's what they did when they went through. They got the Rooneys, they got the Beckhams, they got the Zlatans. It was to boost, one, the exposure. That's how you do it. And two, the future generations will flourish because one, their leadership, and two, people now, attention's all on them. So I guess if the national team's fair income, the plan has to be the A-League. And Gus, like Pedj was saying earlier, he said it to us in the golden era. And he goes, you're going to regret it if you don't act upon it. And boy, the guy was 100% correct.
If you look right now at American national team, you need players are playing abroad in good countries. Like they're leaving. Christian Pulisic, Chelsea. There's a couple playing. There's so many. I know there's a couple playing in German Bundesliga. You look at our Aussie team. Which big players playing in the Premier League? There's no Aussies playing in the Premier League. You know what I mean? If you look at, like I said, America, there's players, man. There's so many good young players going overseas because, like we said, the league's growing. People are watching the MLS saying, okay, we'll buy players. If you say you look at people overseas, you said Australian League, they'll laugh at us. What's the Australian League? What players do we have in Australian League? You know, unfortunately, you know, as bad as it is, we're a laughing stock. Everyone laughs at us. They say, there's no football in Australia. You know what I mean? So that's the problem, I think. You know, the MLS have grown. They're smart. They've done the right things. And, you know, look how good the national team is. They're in the World Cup. You know, they've got good players playing overseas. And unfortunately, we're lagging behind. Like I said, we've got no one playing in the Premier League. Look back in the day, you had Harry Kewell, you know, Mark Vidukas, Schwarzer. We had all these players playing in the Premier League. They weren't just basic players, they were top-notch players. Now we've got no one playing in the Prem. No one's playing there.
Bro, even if you look at it from a media perspective, right? You go look at the F2 boys that take free kicks and they do some skills challenges with a lot of the elite footballers. Come look at the A-League. Where are our players that are going and branching off with brands, with certain gigs? Or like, where is there a channel for the people to connect with these players on a human-to-human level? So, like, we're failing on all fronts, the football front, connecting. We went to Paramount. You're making it even more mission impossible. Like, really, how good is this deal for you? Like, seriously.
Need a 007 code and a freaking trip trying to get kids open the gate to watch.
You know what I mean?
And then the games at these, but it's over that stadium.
100%. And the politics is crazy, man. If you're looking at a playing perspective, you're looking at it from a media coverage perspective, you're even looking at it from a referee's perspective. Like, I've got a referee cousin who's really up there. And geez Louise, it's like mission impossible as well because you got to please certain people. And it's disgraceful, man, because even they were on strike not long ago. So no one in this world the footballing world's pleased. Boys, you got to keep it real between the lines. You got to call them out. You got to do what the people want, man. Give some content. Jamie, Pedj, go at each other, mate. You got the strength and conditioning. Talk to us about the academy boys. To anyone watching, aspiring to be a footballer, and they want to link up with genuine people, how do they do it?
Well, before I love your quote, "Geez Louise." I love that one.
Mate, like us, I always say it sometimes.
I'm gonna start using that one. That was brilliant. Geez Louise. Oh, look, Play Essentials is the brand. So yeah, look, we're a targeted footballers, but look, I personally trained some ex-pro boxers through my time. Junior Talapower back in the day.
Junior,
Yeah. When he was just come off the contender. So from a strength conditioning point, we do target all areas, but people are listening, if they want to improve their strength condition from speed and agility, strength, power, awareness, core, where I'd go to. If they're football specific, Jamie and I do both ball work side of things, which is what's critiqued there. We're very educational. We're very big on educating, teaching the steps 1 through to 10, not do 10 and miss 1 to 9. And that's the ABCs, as you were saying. So we're very, very big on foundation base, because you do all the theatrics, but that's all for the TVs. You got to do the groundwork, you got to do the hard shit work here. So mindset's another thing we do. I specialize more in the mindset, where I do a lot of mentoring, get people to have goal sets where we go through strategies and clarity to get you to next step. But yeah, I mean, look, S&C is the core of Play Essentials. And do we get results? Yes, but the only reason why results come is purely through connection. I say this day in, day out. James says, if we don't connect with the client, no one can achieve anything. Doesn't matter what program you have. Very big on making sure you have a togetherness. Otherwise, it doesn't work.
Mate, 100%. Jamie, talk to the people, mate. Rockdale, Illingdon, how are you guys going? You go top of the third? What's the season going to look like for yourself? What's happening, mate? What are the people to expect?
Rockdale's never won the league before, so it's obviously the goal for us to win the league.
Hey, didn't you win the COVID one?
But no, we came first, but we never won the grand final. So we never won the grand final.
So you've won the league, but not the final.
Not the final, yeah. So they've never won at the cup. So it's a big thing at the moment for us. We went, I think, unbeaten for 8, 9 games, and then we lost last week against Manly. Then we lost this week against Blacktown City. So yeah, we've lost two on the road at the moment, but you can look at that and say we've had a lot of injuries, like sicknesses, COVID's coming. We're playing actually on Wednesday FA Cup against Sydney United. So that'll be a big game.
All right, I'll be there. We'll cover it. Jamie, we're going to follow you, mate.
Unfortunately, bro, because it's behind closed doors. There was a big drama happen.
That's all right. I got a media pass. It's fine. I can get in, mate. The people are going to see it.
Yeah, so we're playing them on Wednesday, and then we're playing Sydney Olympic on Sunday. So we've got the next 4 or 5 games will be pretty tough games, and hopefully we get the results and, you know, end up top 4. That's the goal, top 4. We have the quality, we have the players there. It's just now, you know, going through the tough times where injuries coming, people getting sick, not having, you know, missing some key boys in the key moments. So I hope so. I think we have the players. I think we have the players to win the league, and that's the goal for us. No,
legend. Honestly, boys, it's been an honor and a pleasure talking to you guys. It's a relationship that'll be continuous. You know, we'll catch up in the future. Whatever we can help each other, I'll definitely be there. Yeah. Jamie, I'm going to try my hardest to get out there Wednesday. Pedj, you're an absolute champion, boys. Thanks for coming on. Man. Legend, boys.
Thanks, brother.
Awesome chat, bud.
Wow.
Yeah.